So let's explore some of the changes that you can experience in your body. Obviously, your body's always changing, and there's far too many changes to list in this one video regarding integrating the realization of truth, embodying, expressing truth. But the body does go through a profound transformation, and a lot of these changes are very subtle, a lot of nuances to be experienced. And this is something that you can only experience. You can't conceptualize this. So when one is sort of stuck at the stage of realization and they haven't gone further to integrate that realization, they won't be experiencing these changes, these transformations in the body. So there is a change that is very obvious, which is a deep sense of relaxation. You feel the body is completely relaxed. And experience this global relaxation throughout the entire body, throughout the entire system. A shift in the nervous system, shifting from sympathetic to parasympathetic, or in other words, just putting it simply, from fight or flight to safety. There's a sense of safety, stability, security that is then mirrored, reflected, symbolized in the body, because the body is like a mirror reflecting the spiritual. The body is, we could say, like matter that is a manifestation of that which is spiritual. And even that, as I hesitated to say it, I don't like saying it like that because it creates this split, this separation. But just for this video, I said it like that. So, as you come to experience that spaciousness of your true nature, then you see that being reflected back in the body. You feel that being manifested as the body. That relaxation, because you've realized your essence to be rest and are experiencing that rest. You're abiding as that rest more and more. You see that the body is reflecting that back, mirroring that back, a manifestation of that. So it feels as if the body is more restful, more relaxed. So that's a very obvious one. Now, as you experience more and more of yourself throughout daily life, there's a sense of being grounded, stable, secure, because you've realized and are abiding as your true nature, that which is never changing, that which is permanent, that which is ever present. That is the true security. That is the stillness of your being. It's unshakable. By experiencing that in daily life, you start seeing that the body is reflecting that it feels more grounded. As you ground yourself in your true nature, in the midst of daily life, you experience that groundedness in your marriage or significant relationship, with your kids, at your job, in the workplace, doing daily chores, going to the grocery store, taking walks in nature, whatever it is, but you feel that same groundedness. But it's very nuanced. It's very subtle in terms of the bodily changes that you start experiencing. You quite literally experience the arches of your feet awaken. So I'm speaking to the activation of certain muscles, the awakening of certain muscles. You quite literally feel that your arches of your feet awaken, and they can now grip and ground yourself, where you feel more rooted. Literally, the soles of your feet feel more rooted in the earth. You feel that groundedness actually as an embodied experience. It's not some sort of airy idea. You're not conceptualizing this. It's experiential for you. It's an embodied experience, feeling grounded. And you're quite literally rooting your feet in the ground, feeling this stability, this balance, because you've experienced that, not just a one experience, you continue to experience this stillness of your being in the midst of daily life. It's like you have found your center point. You're centered in yourself. And because you're centered in yourself, you feel that centered in yourself being reflected back in the body. So you actually feel more balanced in the body. You're not so off balance. You've got that grip of your soles rooting into the ground. You've felt your center of gravity drop. Where it used to be up higher, you feel it drop. That pelvis stabilized more. The core muscles, the deep core muscles, the muscles that aren't just specific to your abdominal muscles, but the muscles that are the deep intrinsic muscles closest to the spine, you start feeling them start being more activated. You start seeing how these muscles that are now activated are stabilizing the pelvis much more effectively than before. And what happens is the muscles that were more superficial, don't want to say exterior, but let's just say superficial, not the deep ones, they start to relax more. Those are the muscles that were overcompensating for the lack of activation of those deep core muscles that are now activated. So because the deep core muscles are now activated, these other muscles, perhaps it was the hip flexors and lower back, those are often very tight in many people. Hamstrings. Certain muscles, you'll feel the effects into your shoulders, your back, your neck, all these other muscles, they start to actually just relax because they're no longer overcompensating for the lack of activation, power. This area that I'm talking about is like the power center of your body, the lower abdominal area, where you're able to generate your power. You're starting to see that actually it's on. You're able to draw in your abdominals and stabilize your body from the inside out. So those sort of superficial outside sort of muscles, they can relax. Your body's coming into more alignment, which is creating more efficiency in how you move. This is noticeable in how you transmit power through your body in daily activities. Hello. Such as grocery shopping, changing diapers, cleaning dishes, cooking food, mopping floors. All these sort of things, you start noticing them if you're in sports or more strenuous activity, any sort of laborious activity, landscaping, maybe you go for runs or hikes, you'll notice it there even more so. It's a proficiency in movement because you're really moving in the most natural way with the least amount of effort. Often sometimes call it effortless power. And you have this power center online, you could say. You're transmitting power from the inside out. And it's much more proficient. Your body starts feeling weightless in a way. Not like you're floating, but it can feel like that because the limbs are not moving in isolation anymore. When you pick up groceries, you're carrying them to your car, it's not like your hand is carrying the groceries. That's how most people experience it. Like my arm is carrying these groceries. I'm feeling this fatigue in my hand, in my wrists, in my elbow, in my shoulder. And that's when the body's not moving in an integrated way. It's not moving integrated. Integral means wholeness. It's not moving as a whole. Now you start seeing the contrast because your body is moving as a whole. It's transmitting power from the inside out in sort of a radial way. And it's moving as a unit, as a whole. Not in separation, not in isolation. They're no longer isolated movements. It's a whole body movement, whatever you're doing. So you start noticing this. And this doesn't happen overnight. Should have probably said that at the start of the video. It's not like you're gonna snap your fingers and experience these changes. They happen through the integration. They happen through the more you embody this. And you see it's actually, like I said before, it's a physical manifestation of the spiritual. You see, it's not just changes or transformation in the body, but this video would be way too long if I started showing you how interconnected it is. But I'll give you an example, since we just talked about the power center of the body, just below your belly button, and how now you feel you're moving from that outward. Whereas everything felt so disconnected before, now you feel that everything is moving as a unit, integrated as one. And you see that this is a direct reflection of the truth, the wholeness, the oneness, the unity of yourself. You start experiencing this embodied, right? The same way when you're integrating the realization and you start moving through these, what I like to call them, initiations. Every integration is like an initiation for you to embody and express truth more and more. And the more and more you embody and express truth, the more transformation you experience in your life. And you see how it's very symbolic of what's happening in the body, how you're transmitting power from the inside out. You're initiating movement from the core to the peripheral muscles. You're literally drawing in from the source, drawing in from your core. You see, you're doing the exact same thing in your art, right? When I write poems, I'm drawing in from the source. It's a movement from the source outward, we can say. The business that I have, it's an expression of what I am. It's an expression of truth, right? Again, from the core on out, from the source, it flows, it moves. There's that intention behind it. It's an intentional movement. So you see how the body is mirroring that, mimicking that. It's touched by it the same way as your art or your business or your relationships, how it starts manifesting that, the alignment of perhaps leaving an old job and starting a new one, or creating a new one through business, through entrepreneurship, or leaving an old relationship and getting into a new relationship, one that's more aligned, dropping old habits, walking away from that which no longer serves you. You see that those are those initiations, which then you are taking that step and you're noticing how that which appeared to be some sort of thing that was mental is now actually showing up physically. Now, it doesn't happen on the physical realm as fast as it happens on the mental realm. There's a little bit more of a delay because of the density of matter of the physical realm. So the body is always slower going through this process, right? But you'll see you're going to be able to have these realizations, perhaps the realization of leaking energy, and you'll be able to see that clarity will then allow you to set boundaries, which then will stop you from leaking that energy. And this is really integrating more of the divine masculine. It's really what I'm talking about is containment. You're really containing your power. By continuing to integrate and embody, you'll start experiencing the ability to harness that power. And you'll see the body is the same way, that you'll be able to contain that power. You'll be literally being able to feel the abdominal muscles, the core muscles, all through the torso, being more contained. you'll feel like things just start tightening up, that there's this tone. You're toning the body. It's an energetic toning. Certain areas of your body that look kind of flabby, fat, they were really manifestations, not saying all of them. I mean, if your diet is no good, then it's quite possible that it's just accumulation of fat, but it's still pointing to leakage of energy. Because it literally, when we see this, it kind of feels like, I'm kind of spilling out here through the sides. We call it like a spare tire, where the lower abdominal is really kind of spilling out. This kind of poochy area, I think women call it. This starts toning up. You start seeing that there's postural changes, that you're able to breathe deeper, take that breath deeper, all the way down to your lower abdominals, literally to your pelvic floor. This might be a little too much information for people, but you're literally able to breathe from one end of the hole to the other end of the hole. And this feels so natural. It's a full body breathing. You're bringing that life force all the way down. You're literally feeling more rooted, right? But it starts with those realizations, but then the integration is then manifesting physically, where you literally feel more rooted. You feel more safe, more open. And that manifests in the body down there. Your butt, your sexual organs, your groin, that area starts to open up, right? And it's not gonna just open up by you laying in bed passively watching life go by. It's gonna look like more of a movement practice, perhaps integrating some Tai Chi, yoga, stretching, whatever it is. It's gonna look like that. And it's gonna be so intuitive, so natural to you to move in a certain way. You could feel that perhaps you're feeling more called to sit more on the floor. And you see this as directly related to that grounding and rooting, where literally you can't get any closer because your root, your butt, is literally on the ground. And when you're breathing like that, it's literally like you're drawing the energy up through the earth into the body, from the ground in through your butt, up your body, and feeling that connection where you feel grounded, rooted in the earth, right? Like a tree that is stable and strong because it sent its roots down deep. So you're rooted deep in the earth, but also you're so upright because you've integrated and you are standing tall. You have that spine now. You're standing up for yourself. You've matured, you've grown. And now you are sort of, it's like you've got your head, the crown is in heaven, right? It's in the sky, but you're rooted in the earth, right? It's this unity. You're bringing heaven to earth. You are integrated. You're not just camping at realization, talking about truth. Nobody here, nothing to do, and it's all conceptual. It's experiential. You're living it. Truth is not something that you've realized. It's now what you're living. So I call it living truth. So, what other ones here we mention? Other changes in the body, the postural, the nervous system. The nervous system, let's touch on that a little bit more. There's literally a rewiring of your nervous system. It's like you're relearning how to move, right? Because you're so used to moving in isolated movements, like just getting your arm to do something, or let's say you're sweeping or you're raking, and your natural movement is to like use your arms to rake, right? Use your arms to sweep. Hello.
Hello.
But now you see that it's less about your arms and it's a full body movement. You see that actually how you rake or sweep or do any of these movements, it's like when you're raking, you're not using your arms, you're like rotating your spine. And it's this rotating your spine. Let me grab something here. Hold on. Like you're rotating your spine. You used to move, there's probably too many leaves here. You used to move from the leaves. But now you're not moving from the leaves, you're moving from the spine, right? This little twig, the branch part, right? And you see, as if you move from the peripherals, it's going to be a lot slower. It's also a lot more inefficient. But now it's like you move from where I have the touch point here of my hands on the branch part that's representing the spine, you move from there. And you see how fast you can move and how efficient that is. It's a less energy and you're moving from, like I said, from inside out, from those deep core muscles that are the closest to your spine. That's what allows you to rotate, and you're creating rotational power using the spiral system of your body to transfer that power through it. So this is where I usually draw the difference in speaking of the physical between force versus power. Force is like there's effort, right? And it always feels somewhat inefficient. We think that we have to force more and more and more, push harder, push harder, push harder. Whereas this power, it's like effortless. It's like, it's just the natural way of moving. And there's a more efficient way of moving. So you're starting to experience this efficiency. But during this time of change, it's like you have to relearn that. That's where the integration is quite literally raking the grass, raking the leaves, right? Or you're able to relearn how to move properly, right? You see that all these daily activities, daily chores, when you're integrating this, they transform the whole experience, right? It's so alive, walking in nature, and you're actually feeling your soles on the ground. You're feeling every rock under your foot. You're feeling the terrain change, and you're feeling how your whole body is absorbing that elevation change and the unstable ground. And you see how it's so much more embodied. Whereas, contrast that to what most people experience. They don't even experience their feet on the floor. They are so up in the head, so ungrounded, thinking about their to-do list or dwelling over what happened yesterday, that they don't even notice the type of terrain that they're walking on, right? So it's complete transformation here we're talking about, right? You awaken to so much more. There's so much more of a sensational experience, I call it, where the senses become alive. And just zooming in, let's keep it just mostly focused on the body here. The texture, the touch, the sensation, right? You're touching that sense, right? That becomes so much more alive, and you're able to feel that, right? Which then you see that you're naturally drawn to experience it in more and more subtle ways, right? There's more of an appreciation for this. It could be more, you see that you're drawn more to yoga, but perhaps you were doing like power yoga or just blasting through some sort of morning flow session. Now you see it's like you want to move much slower and really feel this stretch more subtly than you've ever felt before. And you see it's like this connection where you're really embodying the presence. It's literally you're bringing presence, you're bringing that awareness to certain areas of your body that you've never experienced before. So you're exploring your body. It's quite literally like you're experiencing your whole body as like a terrain, a journey that you're exploring. And this is where it becomes so interesting of just what muscles are tight or what muscles are locked, restricted, where you can feel that restriction. You can also feel how the energy wants to be unrestricted. You can see how actually you want to experience greater range of motion. And really you start shifting to see that mobility is actually self-expression, that you want to experience greater mobility because it's actually an expression of truth. The body is an expression of truth, and moving in different planes of motion, planes of movement, is just you able to express yourself more and more. And you see how, I'll give you one more example here, how it's so interconnected. Because when you were in this fight or flight mode, survival mode, it was very linear. And you see how your body, for most people, it's very linear, right? It's in this kind of plane, this linear plane, right? Forward and backward type of thing. It's always moving in a straight line. And because of that, when the body's only moving in a straight line like that, it's avoiding certain movements, right? Because it avoids certain movements, it's avoiding certain muscles. Because it's avoiding certain muscles, then it's like those muscles are inactive, right? So some lateral movement, side to side, rotational movement, right? Rotational movement paired with any other movement, right? And you start seeing how certain muscles in your body it's like you've never used them before. And you start seeing how actually you're limited in those ranges of motion because they're sort of like, we can call them uncharted territories. You start seeing, oh yeah, like I've been going to the gym the last 10 years, but I've been completely ignoring or negating or avoiding lateral movement. It's like perhaps you get in like all these, if you go to the gym and use the machines, they're all like one directional movements for the most part. So you see it's kind of, you've kept on that track. But then also, here's how I'm connecting the dots here. You can see that you've also been living like that in this one like stay in your lane, this one way type of living, linear living, as they call it. Literally staying on track, right? Where you haven't actually explored side to side, these shifts. And you start seeing how, because you're not able to adapt to those type of shifts in life, mostly because a lot of people, we are stuck in the survival mode, so it's kind of like just chasing in one direction and then narrowing our focus on one thing and sort of chasing it. Could be survival. For most people, it's money, chasing the money, right? Because that brings up a lot of things about survival, right? Then it's like you're not able to explore side to side, but over here could be more family stuff. Over here could be more arts, right? So you could see how it's like we haven't explored that side to side motion or movement in our life. And also that's being shown physically in the body. So you start seeing that actually a lot of that ignoring the lateral plane of movement then creates problems in the body. Creates injuries in the body, right? When you're not able to go from side to side or rotate, and all of a sudden you do, or just lack of doing those movements for such a long time, you develop overusage injuries from certain muscles being overused too much, as well as it just lacks, the body lacks that stability, right? It lacks that support, right? Because you're not using it as a whole. You're not experiencing the full range of motion, right? You're not moving in an integral way, but instead in an isolated way, right? So you start seeing this, how once there's more of this freedom and exploration, where you're more open mentally, you're more open literally to new things. Okay, you're not stuck in the survival mode, so you're open. You'll go for a walk in nature, or hey, you know what, I've never tried sewing or knitting or dancing. You'll just see that there's more of this openness, a receptivity, because you're more surrendered. So because you're more surrendered, you don't have this rigidity. And that rigidity is reflected in the body. You know, the body's less rigid, it's more supple, more relaxed, it's more flexible. You can flow more. It's fluid. You start noticing there's a flow of creative thoughts, right? That when the thoughts are there, for the most part, it's no thoughts. But when the thoughts are there, they're creative thoughts. They're thoughts to explore something new, right? So as you enter the unknown, you say mentally, experience something like, oh, yeah, maybe I'll try, I don't know, a new recipe today, or try just winging it and open the fridge and cook something. Or maybe, yeah, someone mentioned some dance or yoga. I've always, had that in the back of my mind, but I've never really, tried it. Why? Because of fear of the unknown, right? So now you step into that unknown. It's very similar. That gets manifested physically. You start experiencing physically that, okay, you're going to explore different movements, more side-to-side movements. You're going to explore this new range of motion, and this new range of motion is going to feel unknown. And as you're integrating this in the body through different stretches and mobility exercises, or, I don't even think of it like that, just call it natural movement. You just move your body intuitively. It knows how to move. This is where you don't overthink it. You just get out of your head and into the body. You let the natural intelligence, the living intelligence, move your body. You start seeing that it's actually exploring these ranges of motion. And just like you would if you were starting, to try and cook and you've never cooked before, or starting to knit or do pottery or dance, it's like that. You're testing the waters. You're feeling it out, right? You don't go from 1 to 100 or 0 to 100 in, one day. So it's like that with that range of motion. You're testing it out, and you'll be able to feel how the body still sort of braces itself at times. There's sort of this protection that happens when you're exploring those new ranges of motion. And it's really about going slow, being soft, and through activating your core in those ranges of motion, through initiating the movement from your core, you then are sort of relearning, sort of teaching your body that it's safe to move in this range of motion, because it hasn't moved in that range of motion for years. So it's not going to just overnight, you're not just going to gain all this range of motion when you haven't explored it. So you're just exploring it literally like one step at a time, 1 inch at a time, sort of say. And as it starts to feel more safe in those new ranges of motion, it starts letting go more. You see that the lower back loosens even more, it relaxes even more. Okay, the the deep core muscles are holding everything together because they're turning on. Okay, so the lower back says, well, I don't need to hold on as much, so it lets go, right? As a result of the deep core muscles being turned on, right? And this happens throughout the entire body in different areas. And then because the lower back is not so tight and locked and restricted, you're then going to want to, explore. Okay, well, it feels like I can bend forward more. I can do more of a forward flex more. I can rotate a lot better. Different things like this. You're just starting to explore that. And it becomes very fulfilling in its own way, because it's like you're tasting the fruit of your own fulfillment, right? What's manifesting is the fulfillment of that realization, right? Or another way to say it, it's the actualization of realization. So I often speak of the embodiment and expression of truth is your actualization. This is why it's after realization. It doesn't end at realization, right? You realize your potential, but now it's time to actualize that potential. And this is a very bodily experience, right? So just listed a few of those changes, and there's many more. They're so subtle. There's one thing to talk about them, and there's another thing to experience it. And once you start experiencing it, you start seeing that, oh, this is real. This is not something that I could have ever conceptualized. When we stay at this realization stage and bypass the integration, we don't experience any of this that I'm speaking of. It's all foreign. You wouldn't even know that you're missing out on it, because there's still that conditioning that is being avoided, right? And that is really what you come face to face with when it comes to integrating that realization, right? Like I said, it doesn't start, you don't initiate these things with the stretching. They usually happen through something that you're seeing within yourself, the deeper work, the conditioning. You start seeing how, I'll give you one more example, then we'll end it, that perhaps you were caught up in this nobody here, nothing to do, and that turned into passivity. And you started seeing how that started creating a lot of chaos in your life, a lot of disorder. Because when there's all flow and just let's go with the flow, and there's no containment, there's no order, there's no structure, then that in itself is a little bit of an imbalance. Not a little bit, but it's an imbalance that you experience, which then you experience that imbalance that if there's only that passive aspect of yourself that was realized, the being, and you shift from active to passive and now are avoiding the active component of life, right, the human experience, then you start seeing how it's not a balanced life, right? You'll just start seeing, you can't pay the bills, or, things are just happening. You're living in a mess because you don't clean your house, or dishes are piling up, or whatever it is, but there's, hello, hey. And it's all right. Hey, you just want to play. You're okay. That's okay. The dishes are piling up, and like that, right? This lack of responsibility. Nobody here, nothing to do. Who would be responsible for, paying the bills or driving the kids to school or changing diapers or whatever that, right? So you can see that sort of trap, as I like to call it, keeps one in avoidance of life. When you're avoiding life, then you're not going to be experiencing any of this integration that I'm talking about. And because you haven't integrated it, then it's not going to be something that you embody, something that you express. But what I'm inviting you into is living truth, right? It's for you that has realized truth, right? Or if you haven't, then I can guide you to that realization. But it's to then live the truth that you've realized, not just sit passively on the couch, avoiding bills and the dishes, but actually about being active, right? Realizing that responsibility is not the opposite of freedom. Actually, responsibility is the expression of freedom. It's freedom in movement. It's freedom in motion. So it then makes you much more active in the world, where you're not seeing it as, oh, I'm either doing or I'm being, but no, it's the integration that you see that doing and being are two sides of the same coin, that you can be very active in the world, but still be experiencing the happiness, the love, the peace, the freedom that's your true nature, right? So this is all about, living truth is all about experiencing your true nature in everyday life, not escaping everyday life, not escaping dishes and diapers and a job, a career, relationships, to try and get back to the bliss of your being, but it's actually living in the world as the bliss of our being. And the two are radically different, and it's not possible without integration. And that's ultimately what I'm inviting you into. So join me in living truth.